You're muted. Well, welcome everyone. I love those stories. Welcome to our Tuesday evening Ask the Doc call. My name is Lynn Matthews, and it is always such a pleasure to be here doing this. I'm so excited that Dr. Carolyn Hoffman is back. I feel like it's been forever since I've been able to host you. So welcome back. It's great to see you. If this is your first time tonight, I'm really excited for you. You are going to learn about a cutting edge cellular health breakthrough that is like nothing we've ever experienced in the world of health and wellness. It's about REDOX. Dr. Carolyn is probably one of the most eloquent speakers on it. That's why I love to host her. But REDOX is something that it's a relatively new field of science. If you've never heard of it, it's not surprising, and she'll kind of talk a little bit about why. But people come and look at this for a lot of different reasons. You might be here because you have a health challenge and you're looking to see if this could potentially be part of your solution. Or maybe you're here on behalf of someone else, a friend, a colleague, a family member, and you're investigating it for them. Maybe you're here because, like Dr. Hoffman and I, we love to be proactive with our health, right? We're healthy and we want to maintain that health because, as many of us know, it's easier to maintain good health than it is to regain your health when you have a problem. So a lot of people want to know how they can use this to stay healthy and be proactive. And then some people are on here because maybe you've heard that there's some athletic benefit, right? Whether it's mental focus, whether it's endurance, faster recovery. And you don't have to be an Olympic athlete. You don't have to be a professional athlete to get those benefits, although we have many, many of those types of athletes using this. But you can be someone like, I love to bike, I love to hike. Some people love to go to the gym. There's people out there who like to do marathons, or just to have the energy to play with your grandkids and your kids, right? So we'll go over a little bit about the athletic benefits as well. And as we all know, none of us are getting any younger, right? That's not how life works. But there is an anti-aging aspect of this, and it is kind of like turning back the clock. Many people look at aging and they look at the exterior, right? The wrinkles that we get when we get older, the hair turns gray, maybe we don't sleep as well, we don't have as much energy, we don't recover and bounce back from things as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how REDOX impacts aging. Because remember, it's not just the outside, but if you're seeing wrinkles on the outside, think of what that's doing to all of our organs, right, on the inside. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of those things tonight. And then when Dr. Hoffman is done, we'll answer questions. And that is what's really important to us, is that you get your questions answered while we're here tonight. So as she's going through her presentation, if you'll just put your questions in the chat, we will make sure that we go back to the very top of those questions and she will answer all of those. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Carolyn Hoffman. She is a traditional naturopath. She has been in that field for over 22 years. She is out of Charlottesville, Virginia, by way of the UK. So you'll enjoy her wonderful accent. But she's also sits on the medical professional board for this company. And that's one of the things I love, because not only does she have her own medical knowledge and that background that she comes to with tonight, but she also really understands REDOX and these products and can answer questions with a whole different perspective or lens on them. So Carolyn, I'm going to turn this over to you, and welcome back. It's so good to see you.
You are welcome. Let me just flip around our screen here and I'll bring it back and say hi, everybody. Good to see you all again. And hey, Don. Having been traveling quite a bit, I kind of feel like I've got to get my feet back on the ground and get into the flow of things for definite. But I'm excited to be here this evening. And I love doing this with Lynn. It's fun to be back with you. And we want to talk about this field of REDOX. It might be new to you. I'm going to show you some really interesting things about what might be surprising about the fact that it may be new to you and how long this field of technology has been around. But don't be concerned if it is new to you. It's just a testament to the fact that breakthroughs in technology take probably 20 to 30 years to really become something more mainstream in medicine. You'll start to see that there's lots of research going on in the medical field, as there has been for quite a long time. But we're still pioneering this development of redox in terms of something as an application that's not within the medical field as we know it at the moment. I'm certain that it will be, because I know that they're trying hard to do things with it. But that is always a focus of drugs and technology of a different nature. But we want to talk about how we can benefit from this field in a way that gives us independence. And I think that that's the important piece that we can look at. So let me just share a screen here. I want to get rid of that one. Don't need that or that one. There we go. And Lynn, just give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Cool, that's great. We want to talk about this because redox is, as Lynn often says, and we have come to realize, it is the energy within every single cell that literally powers all life. And I want to tonight to connect the dots for you between the importance of redox and health, and also anti-aging, because they go together. Now, our story actually begins way back, not with redox molecules themselves, but with redox reactions. The discovery of superoxide dismutase back in 1969 by Dr. Joe McCord. This ongoing research that he really kind of propelled was where we get this notion of free radical biology, and we'll talk about why even that has altered and what science now understands about it. But this ongoing research created the first of 6 Nobel Prizes being awarded starting in 1998 for nitric oxide. Those things are redox reactions. Now, we're actually going to talk about redox molecules. You probably are familiar with redox molecules, even if you may not absolutely understand that. But if you go to your bathroom, I suspect a lot of you will have a brown bottle with hydrogen peroxide. That is a redox signaling molecule, as is oxygen. And these are all part of this redox signaling mechanism that is essential for us to be alive. You know, that science has produced a plethora of information. We're just deluged with information about redox nowadays, and we've had world conferences since 1987 sharing global research. These are just some of the examples you can see worldwide. There are currently about 350,000 published studies on NIH, in excess of 2.5 million in the grey papers, which you can find under Google Scholar. And so we know a lot about redox molecules. Now, if you do, just to let you know that if you do go and look on Google, you're not going to see much real solid information, because it's Google Scholar that you need to go to. But I mentioned that the start of this field was free radical biology. That's what they thought of. Not antioxidants, because that wasn't really understood in the mechanism at that point, but inflammation they associated with free radical biology. Well, by 1989, science realized that it was much bigger than that. And so that society renamed itself as the Society for Redox Biology and Medicine. And that is what science is studying, this biology of how these redox molecules impact our health. Vertus Norton, who was a retired strategist, chief strategist for Kraft Foods, really a titan of strategy in the traditional business arena, was involved with a company, who was consulting with a company that had 10 years of critical research, clinical research into these redox signaling molecules. And he got to experience them. He got a little machine given to him while he was part of the company, and he would drink these molecules on the spot when they would generate them. And he began to see that he had changes in his health. Well, that company ended up being in a lot of financial difficulty. They ended up selling off the assets, and being a strategist, he recognized that there was a business opportunity here. And so he bought that intellectual property plus all the patents to that point with all the clinical research, and put together a new group of PhD scientists and tasked them with doing what science had always considered was impossible, to stabilize outside the human body something that is highly reactive within the human cell. that is these redox signaling molecules. And they managed to make this advancement and this breakthrough in 2007, coming to market with a new field of science and a new product technology that had hitherto never existed. And so we have this really interesting moment because, as I said, this was going to be a play, right? A financial play, and a multi-million-dollar offer from Bayer Pharmaceutical changed the storyline about where this was going in a way that really nobody could possibly have predicted. I'd love you to look at the full story on discoverredox.com under the ASEA Genesis, but we're going to pick up later in the talk today and talk about what that pivot point looked like and why it makes a difference to the ethos of this company. So here we are in 2007. We now have this technology that nobody has yet ever heard of, and still to this day, a lot of people are still very unfamiliar with it. But this, by 2009, actually came to the market as a formal product technology, the world's first and only cell signaling supplement, still to this day. And that is partly because these redox signaling molecules are patented and they can't be reverse engineered. We're not actually working with ingredients, we're working with electrical components and chemical reactions. And that is not something that somebody can open that bottle and pour it out and say, this is what it's made of. We can replicate that. Clinically, this is tested and proven to be non-toxic, non-allergic, and it won't interfere with any medication. So in other words, it's safe for everyone. In fact, safer than a lot of supplements and herbs, which do interact with medications. And so this is the safer product technology that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. Now, if you're looking at drugs, they all have side effects, right? They have side effects, they have toxicity levels. You can die from every single drug. Can definitely interact with things. And so the wonderful part about this is that we're working with something that's native to the human body that has none of those challenges. This product is manufactured to drug manufacturing standards. We have the highest standards of production, and we are validated by independent third-party laboratories that what we are providing in that bottle is stabilized redox signaling molecules. We also meet standards for sports field so that it's tested and safe for competitive sports, as well as halal and kosher. This is the FDA registered facility. This is the only facility in the world where we make these redox signaling molecules because we protect the patents and the hundreds of proprietary technology pieces that go into this whole process. Part of it is actually also 3D printing some of those actual physical components that are part of the secret sauce, so to speak. Now, experts, by 2016, we can kind of look at really interesting things like the Huffington Post, talking about this technology as being one of 5 technologies that are going to shape our future. And as people and experts have come to know more about this technology, a lot of people will say that this is really a discovery that is as groundbreaking as the discovery of DNA or even penicillin. And I certainly would believe that to be true. So what are these redox signaling molecules? They're actually part of our normal physiology. In other words, you, me, pets, and plants are making them as we speak, and we actually would be dead in seconds if we didn't make them. So they are the energy for every cell to function. In other words, they're totally essential for life. Now, our cells are constantly communicating back and forth so that we can breathe and work and live. And how do they do it? They do it through this cellular communication, this piece of the redox signaling that is moving these positive and negative charges back and forth from cell to cell in order to make things happen and to combat damage and disease below the surface, so to speak. So their electrical nature means that they turn on and off cellular switches in every single cell. We have something like 70 to 100 trillion Now, these on-off switches also trigger multiple cascades throughout the cells in the human body, and they're passing information wherever that information needs to go in order to maintain our health and keep us in balance. So similar to a game of Simon Says, basically without Simon, redox signaling molecules, nothing happens in the body whatsoever. It all stalls out. Now, redox detects the damage in the cells, and that's why it will send up these signals to help the body find where those problems are. It'll protect the natural lifespan of a cell. It will help the body repair a damaged cell, and that could be from exercise and endurance. It could be from trauma, any of those things, maybe an operation, anything that causes inflammation. It will help the body repair. And it also helps the body recover when we've exhausted a lot of the energy in our cells. We recharge and we recover, and we replace also old cells with new cells. Plus, it keeps our immune system on alert to defend us. That's the adaptive response. That's the thing that's out there, the antennae that are always up and ready to pick out and detect when we're likely to be vulnerable to bacteria or viruses or environmental toxins, anything that can threaten our health. Now, oxidants are the alarm bell, basically, for the healing mechanism. We've come to learn, unlike what they thought back in the 60s, that all oxidants are a bad deal, that if we don't have this initial 911 signal, there is no healing whatsoever. So they're totally essential. We just don't want them out of control. But they signal when there is a damaged cell so that the body can detect where it is. And then they help the body find it and do the repair and replace mechanisms. Reductants, these are the negative charges of those positive and negative charges being moved around through the cell, are like the fire and rescue response. Now, a stress resilient cell, a healthy cell, will respond quickly and adequately to stop the damage and help us heal. And that is why we heal and recover so much quicker when we're younger. Our cells are much more stress resistant and resilient, and that changes with age. And so we see things alter. Now, when we have cells that are damaged, our gene expression starts to go wrong. It starts to turn off. We need it to be at peak performance, speaking very loudly and clearly if we want to have good gene expression, because gene expression is the blueprint of the human body, which is found in those segments of our DNA. The genetic code is responsible for making sure that we have all these life-sustaining tasks that are happening. Now, if you've got someone in your family who can say to you, well, I have this disease, this problem, and my grandfather had it, my father's got it, my brother's got it, and my children are starting to show it, that's a sign of the fact that your genetic expression has turned off through some kind of damage, and you're not getting adequate and correct instructions. Now, in 2016, a study done on the ASEA redox signaling molecules actually showed that 100% of test subjects consuming these products experienced a 20 to 31% beneficial and stable change in gene expression. And this basically proves that we can protect and rejuvenate and enhance cellular function. If you notice that these were considered healthy 35-year-olds, and when they did the preparation work for genetic analysis of their blood work, in fact, it was really interesting to know that at 35, their genes had already started turning off, probably because of the stress and the downregulation that happens. And they took 8 ounces a day, and 100% of them had this stable and improved gene expression. And the placebo was the saline that we use that moves to become the redox signaling. But that was a 0%. Now, if you look at those gene signals, the immune response, inflammatory response, cardiovascular health, gut health, digestive enzyme production, and hormone balance, vitality, and all of those things, they're common to all of us, right? We all want all of those to be particularly strong, and they affect probably most challenges that go on with health. But certainly the first two are our gateway to protecting us against everything else. So that really is an important piece. I wanted to mention again and bring to this point about the cascade. This is an example of that gene cascade. 15 different pathways that affect multiple arenas in the human body. But what is important to highlight here is that some of those signals that you're looking at in the blue, maybe they affect you or somebody that you know. And why is that? Because if that pathway is strong, then those are issues that we're unlikely to see. If we have a pathway that's dysregulated, we're going to see those challenges with those different pathways. So you may recognize some things in yourself or in friends and family that could need strengthening by having a stronger inflammatory signaling pathway. Pathway number 4 is also significant because we do other testing on our ASEA products, and we know that we have an 800% improvement in glutathione efficacy when we take this product. So in other words, what we're doing is improving the strength of our own glutathione. That's a really significant point because glutathione is well researched and documented as being connected to at least 82 known diseases. So in other words, the older we are and the older and sicker we are, the less glutathione we tend to have. Now, whether it's stress or whether we have emotional, physical, nutritional, or environmental stress, health is the ability to respond to stress at the cellular level, to combat damage and actually stay in balance. And so when our cells don't have this resilience, this stress resilience, they get stuck and they are unable to respond to the problems that we have. And so that's when diseases start to take place. This is probably going to be the most crucial statement that I'm going to make today. And I want you to pay attention to this because it's the crux of why bio-replenishing our levels of redox is literally essential to the foundation of health and longevity. This is a study that was published in 2016 in the Free Radical Biology and Medicine. It talks about this evolution of where we started with this notion of free radicals now to aging, this connection of redox to that process. But the statement is so important here. Alterations in redox signaling are observed in aging. So guys, if we've started to pass 20 and above, we're already at that cellular level. Things are changing. We may not see it on the outside, as Lynn mentioned, but it's already happening. And at a cellular level, scientifically, they know. But we also now know that redox signaling is essential in physiological homeostasis. In other words, the balance that maintains health. And that sustained deviation from redox homeostasis results in disease. I'm going to say that again, right? Because this is the reason why whatever you choose to do for your health, bio-replenishing, rebuilding this deviation of homeostasis in your redox mechanisms is the foundation to everything else. Alterations in redox signaling are observed in aging, but we also now know that redox signaling is essential in physiological homeostasis, and that sustained deviation from redox homeostasis results in disease. It's why we look and we feel different as we get older, and it's why diseases are more prevalent as we get older. But I will also mention that I think it's important to notice that diseases that were common in our 60s and 70s and 80s are now being seen much earlier. Why is that? Because our gene regulation is getting hit by environmental toxins and so many other things nowadays that we are much more vulnerable at a cellular level than we ever were before. So why is it, again, important that we think about rebuilding our redox signaling? Because that deviation that they just talked about from that redox balance begins at the age of 15. 15, right? We're probably all thinking, oh, 40 or 50, right? But 15, we actually start to lose these signals at 1% per year from the age of 15. And so damaged cells and aging begins on the inside, like those pictures, but of course we begin to see that evidence on the outside. But combating this deviation from normal before aging is seen on the outside is really the key to having the control over what your health can look like, because you get to power this up in a way that gives you control. So let's talk about why redox signaling molecules, why are they coming from salt and water? Now, that's always a misnomer that you're going to see on Google. Oh, it's just salt and water. All right, but it's not just salt and water by any means. So redox molecules are not salt water. They are electrical signals made from these 4 chemical components of sodium and chloride, right? Sodium, chloride, hydrogen, and oxygen. It makes up the salt and water piece. The body uses that. The cells use the water of life, which is saline. Think about when we go in a hospital, we get saline drips given to us because we have to be hydrated for electricity to move. For communication to happen, we have to have hydration in the cells. And the process within the cells is done in nanoseconds. And it's done 24/7, every single second of the day. If we didn't, we're not going to be alive. Our patented technology replicates that process using exactly the same ingredients. And then we're able to, with our science, measure the activity level and the potential of the redox and lock it off and suspend it in these molecules. By the time we finish, there's actually very little sodium left in it for those people who often feel nervous because it says sodium on the bottle. Just to know that if you're taking around 4 ounces a day, that's the equivalent of sodium of about 1 slice of toast. And there's nobody on a sodium restricted diet who can't consume that. So how much should you use? And if you're going to bio-replenish your ever-increasing loss, remembering what science is telling us about how redox signaling changes and how our health becomes in jeopardy as a result of it. So drinking 4 to 8 ounces a day is somewhat typical. But the quantity that you might need to address today's aging and yesterday's unfinished projects of health are definitely going to be unique. They vary from person to person. And so the great thing is that whoever invited you on the call is going to be able to help you benchmark everything about your health and track and tailor this so that you get the right outcome that you're looking for. Now, within the human body, all of those issues that we have, those symptoms we have, those diseases that we have, line up in order of importance for how the body says it needs to focus on them. And the body will direct these redox signals in the priority order that it determines. So we don't actually get that choice there. You might have bad knees, but it may feel that something else takes a much more important priority. Perhaps it's your heart that's not as strong as it could be, and you don't really realize that. And the body's going to say that's a much more of a priority than your achy joints. But the biggest impact by rebuilding and bio-replenishing will be definitely seen by everybody, and 90% of people at 3 months and beyond. You're going to see a lot of people will notice changes much sooner than that. Some people will see them within the first week, sometimes in the first day. But we always want to be sensible about what your body's doing with these things, and just know that over time, you're beginning to change more and more cells, replace them for healthier ones each time round. And so by the time we get to 3 months, we've had this accumulation that really makes most people really excited about what's happening. If you're impatient or you've got some bigger challenges, saturate your cells with higher amounts in the first month or more and accelerate the body's ability to restore and repair much quicker. That's why we recommend that you start with at least 2 cases of the product, which will be 8 bottles, which will give you the opportunity in that first month to move from the starting point of 4 and bump it up to 8 ounces. There's a really good reason why we call it the magic 8. I was pretty skeptical about that statement when I heard it, but it most definitely is the point of filling more into the body. We suddenly give it this jump start to move forward. Lynn mentioned athletic performance, and so Olympic and professional athletes are using these products because we have studies that show proven benefits, 29% increase in endurance, improvements in faster VO2 max uptake, burning metabolites, all sorts of things that mean for an athlete that they can have the edge over somebody else that they're competing against. And I think it's really critical to say, if this is a product that an athlete at an Olympic level has been given approval to use, not only for the scientific benefits and the physical outcomes, but the fact that they're swallowing and consuming something that could impact them in a bad way, we know that there's been a lot of vetting over that product. And so I always love to say that if it's good enough for an Olympic athlete, it's absolutely good enough for me. Clearly, we don't have to be an Olympic athlete or even a weekend warrior to want to benefit from increased endurance and sharper mental focus, right? What could you do if you had 29% more energy in your day? Think about what you're not managing to do at the moment, and just think about how that could transform your life. Not from feeling hypey, but from actually working at the science of how things function in the cells. Now, it took us about 5 years initially to take the liquid and through research find out how to maintain that reactive stability and put it into a topical application with the Renew 28 for skin benefits. Now, redox, this is doing redox from the outside in. When we drink, it's doing it from the inside out. The clay product on the right-hand side, the Redox clay, has been launched in the last month, and this one is doing amazing things for the skin. We found how to take the power of redox, combine it with bentonite in a way that is totally different from any outcome of any bentonite clay product that you might have used on the market. It does amazing things for clearing, tightening the skin, helping to rejuvenate, and delivers more deeply the foundation of redox signaling to the cells. This is the redox from the outside with the Renew 28. It is designed for skincare. As you can see, within 28 days, we actually can accelerate the skin cell renewal by 16%. What that means is that your skin cells are turning over quicker, more like they were when you were younger. So we begin to see these amazing outcomes. And I would love to just point out this is 4 simple ingredients. No chemicals in there with bad names to it, nothing toxic, nothing that is going to cause a challenge. All this is going to do is actually improve the health of your cells and make changes for improvements. However, the athletes use this product technology very differently. And this was how I actually tested it as a clinician, trying to understand the benefits of the science. When we drink, we're not going to be able to see something happen in under 10 minutes. But when we actually apply the gel technology in a particular way, most often people can actually see and feel how quickly those signals are getting to go to work. And this is how Dr. Silverman said to me, drink the product and kind of wait for your own outcomes. But in the meantime, go and prove to yourself what these signals are doing by putting it on at least 10 people. So as my clients would come in, if they had anything that would hurt, I asked them to simply do me a favor and give me feedback. And this was what we did. So if you're here tonight and you've got something that hurts and you haven't tried this product, this is how I would recommend that you use it. If it's something that doesn't move, like stiff joints, bad back, knees, any of those things, shoulders, neck, test it out, find out what your range of motion is. If it's something that hurts, all of those things, mark those and give them a rating from a 1 to 10. 1 would be insignificant, but 10 would be pretty severe, right? And then take the gel. You need to shake it because it is the liquid, and all we have is a minimum amount of a clear silica clay in there to suspend those liquid molecules in a way that allows us to apply it to the skin. And so I want you to rank how badly something hurts on a 1 to 10. Take the gel and then apply it to the area, and you'll see that it's totally clear. It's very light. It's actually working the moment it comes in contact with you. It's not like traditional supplements or applications that have to be absorbed. This is contact-based communication. and apply it 3 times in 5 minutes. Give it another 5 minutes after you've done that and come back and double check where you're at, both with the level of discomfort or with the things that don't move. You may well find that perhaps if you've got fingers that didn't move too well, I know this is Lynn's story from way back, joints that weren't so good, right? You may not have been able to clasp. But if you apply that gel 3 times in 5 minutes, what I saw with all of my clients, with things made changes. In other words, the cells started to wake up and go back and do the things they'd kind of forgotten. And that very often 10 minutes later, what you're going to see is that you have mobility back there that's stalled out. Now, if you are the kind of person that's thinking, well, you know, when I like things, I like to tell other people, but I really want to know whether it does something for me first. This is a beautiful way to go build your own belief. Put it on at least 10 people, because if you see all of those people have different changes in under 10 minutes, it's a tremendously comforting way to build your own belief about what these signals are doing, rather than just wait for your own personal experience, which might take 3 months or more if you're just drinking. So just know that it's a great way to be able to demonstrate for somebody else how quickly the body loves these signals, but also build your own belief as you do it. Seeing is believing, and here's examples of those 28-day clinical studies. You'll see from this that, you know, we see changes in the tone and elasticity of the skin, soothing those skin irritants that we get, which are very much an inside-out challenge, but also altering and reducing those wrinkles that come with age and damage. We support the Renew 28 with leading the world in redox-based products, particularly around the skincare. Here we have this amazing science of redox and skin aging, actually formulated in 4 products that build the redox reactions: a cleanser, a toner, a redox serum, and a moisturizer. And they partner around the redox biology within Renew 28. Now, what you're going to get with this that's so unique is we're not just working on the surface, we're going to the hypodermis, right where cells begin in the skin. So we're actually changing and improving our skin as we see it on the outside today, but we're also altering the future health of our skin as it changes over with time. Another development in our field of redox is our understanding of nutraceuticals and botanicals, and creating redox targeted responses. This is our cell performance line, and these are a mixture of scientifically formulated botanical ingredients that have and create very targeted and specific activated benefits within the cells. We have the redox energy for sustained redox production. It will give you improved energy in the short term, but it's not a hypey up and down like a Red Bull or any of these things that you can get on the market that get you excited and then get you exhausted. We're working on the science of how cells produce more energy. Redox Mind is great for feeling foggy thinking, you know, better focus, memory, attention, all of those kinds of things. And Redox Mood is beautiful for addressing things like a sense of anxiety and overwhelm. It's also really good for sleep. Things that we also know about certain ingredients in there specifically target things like menopause within the mood. And also there is an ingredient component within Mind that is clinically tested to improve focus and reactivity in online gamers. So if you want a sharper reaction time, work on using the Mind. Now, not only do these work in the short term, but they clinically improve cognitive function over the long term. So you're getting both short-term and long-term benefits. They're all powders, as you can see here from the packets. They're a really beautiful, quick, on-the-go way to help you address things that you want through redox. You just pop them into water. You can add them into other things. You can drink them hot and cold. You can take them singly or together. And we're playing around with how we use them, and we're all finding the ways that which we love them the most. But they are just a beautiful product. Now, everything that I've talked about with redox is the labor that makes things happen in the cells. And what does it work on? It works on the materials, the food that we consume. But nowadays, the food that we consume really doesn't provide us with everything that we need because it's so nutrient deficient. And we really don't have the breadth and variety of eating habits that our forefathers used to have. So putting in the things that are missing is absolutely essential because the redox needs to work on good materials. These are the workers and the materials creating healthy cells, and they're using whole food, organic, non-GMO ingredients, and with the exception of the omega, which comes from fish, everything is also vegan. And so we have a beautiful foundational collection here that are designed to work with the redox signaling molecules. We have complete PIFs for you on this if you're interested in these details. The person that invited you to the call can give you that. And this is what we expect in aging. Remember, the alterations in redox are observed in aging. And here's an example of it, right? We look and feel older with time. But here's what I want to show you happens when we bio-replenish with the ASEA'S redox signaling molecules. We are literally combating that aging, that science and loss of redox signaling, which contributes to aging and to disease. This is a real life study of Rosie, who at 84 started to take these products, and you can see this massive shift in the combat of aging. I mean, literally not simply slowing it down, but reversing it. And this is really an example of why I say I don't have a single product that could do this, not one product. You know, in that last testimonial, as Alan wrapped up from Real Redox Results, as he mentioned, you know, you take one thing for this and one thing for that and one thing for the other. I've spent 20 years in that field of using nutrition in that way. And if you're like me, or you're like many of my clients, you get tired of swallowing dozens and dozens and dozens of supplements, right? And you can think of a reason for another one for just about every article that you ever read on how this can benefit your health. But the challenge is, if we don't have the redox in there in the first place, all of these things don't make the benefit. And that's why people see such significant changes with this in a way that you're not going to see with just a single supplement. If you're interested in more examples of what could it do for me and what's it doing for other people, there is a Facebook group, Healthy Self. I think we have about 210,000 people in there now. You saw or heard one of those interviews on Real Redox Results, and we can give you all of that information. And here's another source of resources for you to look at in terms of learning more this evening or later at your own leisure. I'm going to stop the share and come back and invite Lynn to pick up our story and where we go from that pivot point, right? The thing that changed the direction of this company.
And so many lives after that, right? You're in your family, my family. You know, it's interesting to me because had he not made that decision, I don't know where so many people whose lives this touch would be. But as Dr. Hoffman mentioned, Burtis Norton, the founder of this company, got these molecules and was going to turn it over to a pharmaceutical company. But prior to him talking to them, he started a group of people on the product, a focus group, if you will. And these were people with varying degrees of illnesses, different diseases. There were a handful of them who were terminal. Some of them were on hospice, et cetera. But he wanted to see what this would do, if they would take it, things like that. So when he got this discussion going with the pharmaceutical company, and they were offering him many, many millions of dollars, they had one caveat. And that caveat was that anyone who had the product, anyone taking the product, including Burtis Norton himself, would have to come off it. Basically, he would have to shut down what he was doing, and they told him it would not be publicly available. And he was stunned. You know, he couldn't imagine them doing this. And he said, you know, there's a handful of people that are still here today because of this. And they basically said, look, you know, people will deal with their health challenges any way they can. If you want this money, you walk away and shut everything down. I don't know what all of us on this call would do to walk away from that kind of money, But he just said to them, he said, you know what, ethically, morally, I can't do that. I cannot take this away from people whose lives have been changed so drastically with this. And he walked away from that check. And when he did that, he had to try to figure out, how do I bring this to market, right? And this is a guy, as Dr. Hoffman said, who incredible strategist. He'd been the vice president of international strategy for Kraft Foods, brought many iconic products to market. And he realized very quickly that this was not a product that you could put on the shelf in a store, you know, and even in a health food store, for a couple of reasons. One, even though it says redox and redox molecules on it, many of us have no idea what that is or how profound that is yet. And the other is, all of us have been trained to look at the ingredients, right? We go to the store, we pick it up, we look at the ingredients. So if someone saw salt and water as the ingredients, they would, I'm sure, like my daughter did, be very skeptical as to why they should buy salt and water, why they couldn't just go make it in their kitchen. And so he realized that this required education. It required things like what we're doing tonight. It required things like the person who invited you getting a group of your friends together so that they can learn about it and get educated about it. And that's why he ultimately chose this word of mouth distribution method. You know, they're a biotech company. They do incredible research, leading research, but they chose to distribute it this way because they understood very early on that it requires education. And when he made that decision to turn down that money because of his, you know, the morality and the ethics of it, that became a cornerstone for the culture of this company. And they have truly lived by these ethics in the last 13 years. He wanted to make sure that this was something that would be available to the people. They wanted to have a huge impact on humanity. And so the ethos of the company is just as important to them as distribution and education, et cetera. So one of the things that attracted me to this company was that ethos. You know, I had seen what this product did for family members. I'd seen their lives changed, but I had the opportunity in 2015 to go out and meet Virtus Norton, meet some of the scientists, and meet a lot of the people who were involved in this. I had never worked in an industry like this. I knew what the products did. I was stunned, to be honest, because it turned around something that had been a 2.5-year challenge. But anyway, so I went and they spent 8 hours talking about people, humanity, serving others. They were not talking about selling ASEA to a bunch of people. They were talking about, how can you make a difference in someone's life? Whether or not at the end of that discussion, the person wants to see or not, is not that it's irrelevant, but it's not important. But how can you impact the lives of others? You know, how can you become a better person, right? It was all these things that I was not anticipating learning at this meeting. But that is honestly why 9 years later, I'm still involved with this company, because they really are, they're here to power people's potential, whether that is the potential in your relationships with your spouse, your kids, whether it's the potential in the job that you have, whether it's your potential bringing this to the world and changing people's lives. That is what they're all about. And that is a key component of this company that isn't always talked about a lot. You know, we all know that they have these profound products and cutting edge technologies, but I think it's also important to know the kind of people behind the product. And this is a group of people that really do put people, principles, and purpose before ego and economics. And I've watched them do that. They truly walk their talk. And so I'm really excited that on Tuesdays, we get to at least mention that little piece of ASEA, because to me, it's as profound as the products. And I know I saw a lot of questions in the chat. I want to make sure that we have time to answer them, but just so that you guys know, if for some reason we don't get through all the questions, and we should, but if tomorrow you think of a question that that you forgot to ask, on Saturday on this same Zoom, every Saturday, Dr. Silverman, who's a colleague of Dr. Hoffman's on the medical board, he will be doing a meeting similar to this. He doesn't do a full presentation as she does. He talks a little bit about, product safety, how to take it, et cetera. And then he spends 20 minutes answering questions. And then it's a little bit different, because if this is something that you recognize that can change people's lives and you want to know how to share it with others, either just friends and family or in a big way. The second half of that meeting on Saturday shows us how to do that, how to be part of this. So right now, though, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Carolyn, because I do know we have a lot of questions out there.